Thank you for watching our video. Please subscribe to watch our next video. Thank you for watching our video. Please subscribe to watch our next video.
Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to Black Jewelries and join us for more powerful.
Man in a worn hoodie doesn't look like $9. $8 million. That was the entire problem, and Diane Foss decided it before he said a single word. Uptown Charlotte, on its hour 52 in the morning, the lunch crowd already 3 deep at every teller window. It was not supposed to be real. Marcus Reid walked through the revolving doors of Sterling National Bank, carrying a cracked leather briefcase that had belonged to his father. It still smelled faintly of machine oil. 22. He wore a gray hoodie, jeans gone soft at the knee, boots with the left worn down and at an angle. Only a man who walks everywhere would understand. Nothing about him said 9 figures. That was not exactly how he liked it. His father, Walter Reid, spent 31 years running an lathe at a parts plant outside Gastonia. And the one thing he ever told Marcus about money was this: let it work quietly and let people underestimate you while it does. Inside the briefcase, a single check. $9,846,217. Was not supposed to be real. Vantage Freight Group had bought Reid Systems 3 days earlier, but soft Marcus alone at his kitchen table for 6 years before he ever hired a second employee. Could have wired it. He could have deposited from his phone in 11 seconds flat. Chose to walk in, the way his father walked into that same bank in 1994, deposit a much smaller check and got asked for 3 forms of identification for $400. Marcus remembered that story every time he opened a bank door. He remembered it now, at 11:53, as he approached the only open desk in the lobby. Nameplate read Diane Foss, branch manager, 16 years with Sterling's National. She looked up from her monitor, took in the hoodie, the boots, the briefcase, the tan something he seeding mon to lot nasjettet, alort in aktikit lot, and before he even opened his mouth. Not curiosity, calculation. Good morning, Marcus said. I'd like to deposit this. He slid the check across the desk. Diane Foss looked at the number first, then at him, then back at the number, as if the two facts refused to occupy the same sentence in her head. Her smile arrived a half-second too late to be real. Can I see some identification, she said. Was hands still on the check like she printed let it belong to the desk, yet. Handed her his driver's license. North Carolina, current card address, photo clean and recent. She turned it over twice, held it at arm's length, set it down without comment, and asked for a second form. Gave her his passport. She studied the photo page, longer than the moment required, long enough that the woman behind him in line, an elderly woman in a cream cardigan, shifted her weight and glanced at her watch. You have documentation for the source of these funds? Diane asked. Business records, tax filings, anything showing where a check like this comes from. Was all of it, Marcus said. He opened the briefcase and set down the acquisition letter from Vantage Freight, the incorporation papers for Reid Systems, 2 years of tax, and a 1-page cover letter from the CFO who signed the check herself. Diane barely glanced at any of it. This seems unusual for an account like yours, she said. I'm going to need to verify this before I can process it. Verify it how? Marcus asked. His voice hadn't risen. It wouldn't, not for a while yet. Diane picked up the desk phone and dialed an extension without answering him. Security to the front desk, please. Her voice carried across the lobby, pitched just slightly louder than the request required. Every head in the line turned. A man near the back stopped mid-sentence on his own phone call. Was not supposed to be remembering, because everything after it happens in front of a jury of 11s, teachers who never signed up to watch a man get erased in real time. Frank Delaney, within 90 seconds, a heavy-set man in his 50s with 20 years of banking security behind him and the tired posture of someone who'd done this exact walk too many times. Didn't touch Marcus. He didn't need to. He simply was close enough that his presence did the work, his hands weren't allowed to. "Everything all right here, Miss Foss?" he asked. "This gentleman is attempting to pava a check that doesn't match his account history," Diane said. "Well, I need you to stay with him while I make some calls." "Stay with him." "Might run." Like $9 million check was something a man carried into a bank lobby to abandon and flee. Was Marcus reached into his jacket, slow hands visible the entire time, and set his phone face up on the counter. Tapped record. "Sir, you can't film in here," Diane said. "North Carolina is a one-party consent state," Marcus said. "Won't need the bank's permission to record my own humiliation. I'm only asking you to do your job." It was not supposed to be real. Her face colored. "Sir, I'm going to ask you to step aside so I can help the other customers waiting." "No," he said. Just that. One word, flat and final, and it did something to the air in that lobby that 11 customers would describe differently later, but agree on completely. The room went quiet, in the particular way a room goes quiet, right before something breaks. It was said, "Step aside," Diane repeated. Louder, now, loud enough that a teller 2 windows down actually stopped counting bills. "Well, I'm not leaving this desk until you either process this deposit or give me a written reason why you won't," Marcus said. "It was call the number on that letter. Talk to the CFO who signed it. That takes 4 minutes. It was not supposed to be, sir." Diane said, and picked up the check. She held it between 2 fingers, the way a person holds something they suspect is contaminated. "Where did you actually get this?" she asked. "Not earn, not receive. Get, like it was contraband." "It was sold my company," Marcus said. "Reid Systems. Freight routing software. 26 employees, 4 years profitable, acquired by Vantage Freight 3 days ago. It was all in the folder in front of you." "And what exactly does a company like that do?" she asked. In a tone that made clear she had already disappeared, the answer didn't matter. "I explained it anyway, twice. Because that's the tax black entrepreneurs pay. In rooms like this one, the performance of proving competent to who has already closed the file in her mind was not supposed to be real." Diane didn't write anything down. She simply looked any courier one and key to the witness, though neither of neither knew them, knew that yet. "Was check is fraudulent," she announced, loud of the entire lobby, and tore it in half. It was not supposed to begin. 4 pieces of P represents of yeast speed poo pamister. His daughter went to sleep. 4 pieces of populi that fell onto the marble floor in complete silence because nobody in that lobby, not one of the 11 witnesses, made a sound. It was Diane stepped around the desk and threw the torn pieces at his chest. 2 landed on his boots. "Security. Get him out," she said. "I'm calling the police. Here's a forward warning. Because what happens in the next 4 minutes is the part people replay 100 times when they share this story. A name gets said out loud and the entire room learns exactly how expensive a mistake can be." Marcus didn't move. He bent down slowly and gathered the 4 torn pieces off the marble floor with the same care his father used to gather scrap metal shavings. Like even the wreckage deserved to be handled right. He slid them into an envelope from his briefcase. He asked Diane Foss for her full name and title, wrote it down, and photo of that nabbage, the torn check, and the wall clock reading 12:34. It was when the glass doors opened. Gregory Hale, regional vice president for the Carolinas, hadn't planned to visit this branch that day. He had a lunch 3 blocks north and decided on a whim to check on the newest location before his meeting. He walked into a lobby frozen mid-collapse, 11 customers standing perfectly still, a security guard shifting his weight uncomfortably, torn paper scattered across marble, and Diane Foss, red-faced, jabbing a finger at a man in a gray hoodie. "Put him out before I call the police," Diane said, not yet noticing her regional VP standing 4 feet behind her. It was not supposed to be real. Gregory's eyes moved past his branch manager to the man she was stomached, and something in his stomach dropped the way it does right before a car accident. You can see coming, but he can't stop. "Mr. Reid," he said. The lobby didn't just go quiet. It went still, the way a held breath is still. It was Diane's pointing hand dropped to her side. Sir, she repeated, but this time, the word came out of her own mouth aimed at Marcus, and it landed like a confession. Mr. Reid, Gregory said again. Closer now, voice cracking slightly. Sir, could we speak in my office? It was Sir arriving at minute 41, after the security call, after the torn check, after the paper thrown at his chest. Gregory Hale would spend the rest of his career understanding exactly how much that single word had cost and exactly how late it came. I want to talk privately now, Marcus said. Your manager tore up $9.8 million in front of 11 witnesses, called security on and you want this conversation behind closed doors. Sir, please, let me make this right. You can't, Marcus said, but you can start by moving her away from this desk. Gregory turned to Diane. My office, now. She opened her mouth to protest and found nothing left to say. Walked toward the back hallway stiff-backed, still not understanding, not really, that the ground beneath her 16-year career had already cracked. Was elderly woman in the cream cardigan stepped forward before Marcus could leave. Margaret Ellery, 84 years old, a customer of this bank, before Diane Foss was born. Was sought everything to Margaret Ig. On opposite slips, and pressing it into his hand. That young man did nothing wrong. If you intend them to say so under oath, you call me. Was not supposed to be real. Thanked her, pocketed the number, and walked out through the glass doors. Entered 43 minutes earlier as a customer and left as evidence. Was sat in his truck for 11 minutes, without starting the engine, hands steady, jaw tight, watching the bank's neon sign blink through the windshield. Could delete the recording. He could call Vantage Freight, get the check reissued, drive to a different bank across town, and let the whole afternoon solve it into an anecdote he told nobody. Was not supposed to be real. His daughter Zoe was 8 years old and waiting for him at his sister's house, and part of him wanted nothing more than to pick her up and pretend the day dawned again, way ordinary days go. His phone buzzed, unknown number. He let it ring twice before answering. Mr. Reid, this is Gregory Hale. Please don't hang up. Why are you calling me instead of your manager supervisor? Marcus asked. Because I owe you an explanation before this becomes something neither of us can control, Gregory said. It was already something you can't control, Marcus said. Your bank taught me exactly what I'm worth to it today. It was like to know if that lesson gets taught every week or if I got unlucky. It was silence on the line, the kind that answers a question better than words could. Meet me tomorrow, Gregory finally said. One street where you choose.
Marcus agreed to a coffee shop 3 blocks from the branch, then hung up and called.
Elliot Graham, a civil rights attorney he'd met 2 years earlier at a small business conference in Raleigh. Back when Reid Systems was 4 employees and a dream that hadn't sold yet. It was Elliot. It's Marcus. I need a lawyer. What happened? Marcus told him everything, the torn check, the 3 IDs, the security call, the word, sir, arriving 41 minutes too late. Was it listened without interrupting, the way good attorneys learn to? You have the recording, he finally asked. It was all 52 minutes of it, and a witness willing to testify. Send me everything tonight, Elliot said. It was Marcus, if we do this, we do it in daylight. No quiet settlement, no sealed folder. It was not supposed to be real. The only way anything changes for the next person who walks into that lobby. It was not supposed to be real. I'm not interested in quiet. That single sentence would matter more than either of them understood yet. Because quiet isn't quiet. It's actually what the National Bank was about to offer him, wrapped in a very large number. It was not supposed to be hail happen the next morning. Toning hadn't cough calls between them on a small round table. Gregory had rehearsed an opening line and forgot at the moment. Mark sat down. Mr. Reid, thank you for coming. I want you to know we're taking this seriously. Don't please been on the administratively pending review. What review? Marcus asked. I have video. You have 11 witnesses and a customer who's banked there for decades. What is there left to review? We need to understand her reasoning, Gregory said. Her reasoning was my skin, Marcus said. Flat, no anger in the delivery, because he'd used up all the anger the day before, and only precision remained. You know how many complaints she's had from customers who look like me? I can't share personnel files, Gregory said. When I'll get them through discovery, Marcus said. I have an attorney now. Gregory's face lost another shade of color. Let's not make this adversarial. We'll compensate you generously. We'll handle Diane's discipline internally. We can make this go away quietly. Quietly for who? Marcus asked. For me, or for the bank? He stood, left his coffee untouched, and told he intended to with North Carolina office the commissioner of banks, and that if other customers had similar story, he helped sing their voice too. Next time a customer who looks like me walks into your lobby, Marcus said at the door, try saying, sir, but somebody tears up their future. Say it at minute 1, not minute 41. 3 days later, Marcus posted a single paragraph to LinkedIn. Bank name, no accusations of a company by title, only the truth, in plain sentences. A man walked into a bank with a legitimate check and walked out with torn paper and a lesson about how quickly dignity gets revoked. He hit publish at 9:14 in the morning and closed his laptop. By that evening, the post had 11,000 shares. It was not supposed to be real. By the next morning, 206 comments from strangers describing versions of the exact same afternoon answers across 4 different states. A journalist named Claire Bennett from the Charlotte Ledger messaged him directly, asking for an on-the-record conversation. No pressure, no obligation. Met 2 days later. Claire brought a folder of her own previous investigation. 2 mortgage lenders. 1 payday chain. 1 hopefully publicly accountable through careful patient reporting rather than outrage alone. Don't sensationalize, Claire told him. I document. But once this runs, other people are to come forward. You are ready for that? I've been ready since the moment she tore up that check, Marcus said. Gave her the recording, Margaret Ellery's statement, and copies of the paperwork Diane Foss had ignored on the desk. Claire promised him a week to verify everything properly before publication. And true to her word, she used every day of it. Meanwhile, Elliot Graham filed the initial complaint with the State Banking Commission case number NCBC 8814, alleging discriminatory practice and destruction of customer property. The Commission's public statement was brief and procedural. All licensed financial institutions in North Carolina remain subject to fair service laws, and the complaint would be investigated in full. Sterling National's corporate office responded with a careful, lawyer-scrubbed statement. We take these allegations with the utmost seriousness. The employee involved has been suspended pending internal review. We remain committed to equal service for every customer. Nowhere in the statement did the bank apologize directly to Marcus. Nowhere did it mention Diane's 16-year record or the 11 witnesses in that lobby. There's a fact worth sitting with before we go further, because it changes the entire shape of what comes next. This was never really about one branch manager having a bad day. It was about a system that had been quietly training people like Diane Foss for years, and Marcus Reid was simply the first person whose recording made it impossible to ignore. 2 days after Claire Bennett's article went live under the headline Banking While Black. 1 torn check and 52 minutes, and an anonymous email landed in her inbox. With subject line, "You need to see this." Attached was a 50-word huge internet titled Customers Risks in RS Protocol, version 2. It was 6 dated 14 months earlier and stamped confidential. Claire called Marcus within the hour. Section 3, she said. Read Section 3. He read it standing in his kitchen, coffee going cold in his hand. Enhanced verification triggers included surds, and established stars from account without an established transaction history, and buried inside an appendix labeled purely as risks zones of Charlotte zip codes that lined up almost exactly with the historically black neighborhoods of the West, Northwest, Nonif. Nowhere did the document mention race directly. It didn't need to. Then came the second document. Employee performance evaluations. Diane Foss's most recent quarterly review praised her for proactive fraud prevention. Johnson chatted 12 flagged waft pre-wan scratch trends, tied to an $8,500 performance bonus. Elliot Graham cross-referenced the flagged transactions dates against known customer complaints. 9 of the 12 belonged to Black or Latino customers. None had ever been formally investigated for actual fraud. All 9 had simply been delayed, questioned, or denied. Wasn't a rogue employee. Elliot told Marcus over the phone. She was rewarded for this. That changes everything about the case. Within a week, 3 additional witnesses came forward publicly, each one adding a fact so specific it couldn't be dismissed as coincidence. It was not supposed to be real. The first, a physician named Anthony Whitfield, described being asked for 4 pay stubs on a $19,000 deposit at the same branch 2 years earlier, while a white customer directly ahead of him in line deposited $26,000 with a single driver's license. The second, a small business owner named Renee Carver, described being denied a business loan for a bakery with a completed and fully collateralized application. Only plantation typical bakery change until identical open yearly and East Beige. Olivina 6 blocks away with financing from the same branch 4 months later. A third, a former Sterling National Compliance Officer named Terrence Boyd, resigned in protest the previous year after raising interns about the protocol and being told, in those words, that settlements were cheaper than culture change. Handed Elliot Graham 6 years of internal complaints statistics showing that 89% of formal discrimination complaints across all Sterling National branches in the Carolinas came from customers of color. Despite those customers representing the overall customer base. The state commission expanded its investigation from a single complaint into a full institutional review. The Sterling National stock dropped 6% in a single trading session. A coalition of 22 Charlotte's South owners signed an open letter pledging to review their own hiring and service.
And with the same week, roughly $14 million in combined deposits moved out of Sterling to national branches across the region, not a boycott exactly. More a collective decision
that money speaks the only language certain institutions. His public hearing was scheduled for the 14th of the following month, streamed live, every witness under oath. Here's the last forward hook worth planting before the hearing itself, because everything that happens in that nth room decides it's not just Marcus Reid's outcome, but whether Diane Foss at Nini Ender admits even once, even quietly, that she was wrong. It was not supposed to be in the morning. Inside Monty Cope Indigo 02 of the State Fashion Bean Building. Inja seats bleep an overflow stream, climbing upon a steedy tantra viewer, Olsefan Fulbrans before lunch. It was not sure Patricia Hale, Chibish relation to Gregory Ghost, presided with we flat patience of Wahab Emilson one. The Quanter Isha E1 caught much public attention this fast. Diane Foss testified first. Under oath, she claimed the check appeared inconsistent with the customer's presentation. It was not supposed to be real. Asked directly whether she had called Vantage Freight to verify the check for destroying it, she answered no. It was how many forms of identification she requested from. He chose to put it in large postman. Dispositing the plant. She said it on the situation. It was not supposed to be morning showing that 3 Hodgstad deposits between $70,000 and a single one hand $12,000. Each providing a single form of identifications, without incident. It was not supposed to be real. Diane Foss said only, each situation is different, and could not under direct and repeated question articulate what not exactly had been different about put Marcus Reid's situation beyond the internal risk protocol she'd been trained on. Never once said the word sorry. Not to the commission, not to Mark, not once during 4 hours of testimony. That refusal, more than the torn check self, is what finally convinced the room this had never been an isolated mistake. Gregory Hale testified next. visibly shaken, admitting under oath that he had used the word
arms turn plan, and when at Graham unavoidable question, would you have extended that recognized him?
Gregory sat in silence for all seconds before answering, quietly, "I don't know." Room did not move. Even the live stream chat, usually a blur of scrolling text, went still. Marcus testified last, by his own request. He answered every question plainly, without theater, and when Commissioner Hale asked him what outcome he was seeking, this. "I want the training protocol destroyed. I want every complaint from the last 6 years reviewed and every victim compensated. I want independent oversight with teeth. When I want the next person who walks into that lobby, whoever they are, whatever they're wearing, to hear the word 'sir' before anything goes wrong, not after." The commission's preliminary findings came down that same afternoon. Probable cause of systemic discriminatory practice was $4.1 million civil penalty, a mandatory independent monitor for 3 years, public disclosure of every prior settlement, Diane Foss terminated and barred from banking censure in the state, Gregory Hale formally remanded, required to complete supervised retrainings, the bank's chief executive, Walter Pearce, placed under direct personal oversight by the commission for the duration of the monitorship. Weeks later, the final order at a $5 million victim compensation and a requirement that Sterling supporting publish annual complaint and denials, reviewed independently every going forward, was not supposed to be real. Sterling National's legal team offered Marcus order $2.6 million in exposures and a promise that the whole matter would disappear from public record. It was not supposed to be real. He turned down without needing a single night to think about it. The final settlement he accepted through the commission techniques, use on $180,000, was 200 post be real. He gave 200,000 of it to Elliot Grandma's Civil Rights Legal Fund, and used another portion to endow a small scholarship at a local Montgomery College in his father's name, the Walter Reid Scholarship, for students who was refused to let anyone make them small. Here's the quiet part, the part that doesn't trend the way torn paper and a viral clip trend, but matters more in the long run. It was months later, Sterling National's new customer service protocol, rewritten under the independent monitor supervision of every zip code-based risk flag for its verification system. Complaint numbers from customers of color dropped by 61% within the first 2 quarters under the new rules. It was not supposed to be real. Frank Delaney, the security guard who'd stood silently, Leal Claire Pye Bennett and wanted to follow up, thought about that afternoon, almost every shift, and that he was headed down the same older road. In September, Marcus walked into a different bank across town for a routine deposit tied to his company's next contract. He wore the same gray hoodie. He carried the same cracked leather briefcase. The teller looked up, smiled, and said, "Good morning, sir," before he'd said a single word about who he was or what he carried. It was the whole lesson, really. Respect that arrives before recognition costs nothing and changes everything. Respect that only shows up after somebody finds out who you are was never respect in the first place. It was just fear, wearing a polite word. It was not supposed to be reaffed him. That evening, the old-time fight had been worth it. The interviews, the hearing, the strangers online who alternated between support and cruelty in the same afternoons. It was baby, he told her. It was worth it. You should never have to prove you deserve basic decency before somebody gives it to you. It was not at a bank counter, not anywhere. Dignity doesn't come with the verification process. If this story reached something in you, share it not for the numbers, with nest for the speech per next person standing at a counter somewhere, waiting to find out whether they're going to be treated like a customer or treated like a speaker, treated like a suspect. It was not supposed to be real. Mental so unful like the effort as Neshiberg he or someone you love. And if you believe that respect shouldn't have to wait for recognition, hit like, subscribe for more stories like this one. And let's keep making sure the word sir or any word other than basic human respect arrives at minute 1, not minute 41. Disclaimer. This story is a work of fiction created for entertainment and educational purposes only. All characters, names, businesses, and events depicted are entirely fictional and do not represent any real person, living or dead, or any actual establishment. Whose resemblance to real persons, organizations, or events is purely coincidental. This content is intended to explore themes of human dignity, workplace ethics, and social justice through narrative storytelling. It does not make factual claims about any individual, company, or institution.